Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the United She Stands podcast. Today, we are joined by Cait Conley, and I would not be surprised if you've heard her name before because she is running for Congress, and it is quite an important race in New York 17. So a little bit about Cait here. Cait Conley is a fourth-generation Hudson Valley native and the daughter of a postal worker and a construction worker. She is a decorated combat veteran and national security expert who has spent her life answering the call to serve. That call began on 9/11 when, as a junior in high school, she watched the Twin Towers fall. The next day, she started the process for applying to West Point, earning acceptance and becoming the first in her family to graduate college, and then going on later to attend graduate programs at Harvard and MIT. Cait served 16 years as an active duty Army officer, deploying 6 times to take down the world's most dangerous terrorists, and later led counterterrorism efforts on the National Security Council and at the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Throughout her career, it has been called upon to solve the toughest problems and fix things that are broken. That's why Cait is running for Congress, to fix a broken system and fight for a better future for New Yorkers. We were so fired up doing this. I think y'all will be so fired up within the first 2 minutes of this conversation. Cait is fantastic and a fighter and just wants to, we'll say this many times in the episode, get shit done. And we have total faith in her, and she's running in a very important district that could help us flip the House in next November. So enjoy this episode, send it to anyone who may be in this district, New York 17, and just spread the word about her campaign because it's a very, very important one. Hope you enjoy.
Cait, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm a big fan, ladies, so this is a lot of fun.
Awesome. We're so excited to have you. We're so hyped watching your Hell Cat video, and I know we're going to talk about it today. But first, let's just start with your journey. It's been a remarkable one. From watching 9/11 unfold as a high school student to serving multiple deployments as an Army officer, and then later working in national security at the highest levels. How did all of these different experiences shape your sense of duty and your decision to run for Congress?
Yeah, I mean, actually, first, a huge thanks to you and Sarah for all that you do to bring these issues to people, right? And to facilitate these conversations on issues that impact not just our day-to-day, but who we are as a country. And so going back to that question, like, who am I and why is service to our country so important to me? You know, I grew up in a blue-collar family here in the Hudson Valley. My great-grandfather and grandfather worked in the brickyard. You know, my dad was a construction worker. And my mom, she has been with the U.S. Postal Service for 48 years and still going. And so these values that my family taught me about hard work, tenacity, the responsibility to stand up and fight for what is right, so much of that comes from also, I think, the culture of the Hudson Valley, where we are a area that really values service and community. You know, one way that Mike Lawler and I do agree, my Republican competition here, is he talks about how this district is the district of heroes, where 1 in 2 households is either a veteran, the family of a veteran, a first responder, or the family of a first responder. And so that sense of service and responsibility to one another, that really has shaped who I am, even growing up here. And so that's why, you know, as you brought up, I was a junior in high school when 9/11 happened. And I still remember watching the towers fall on TV. I was sitting in an 11th grade English class, you know, and feeling that sense of, I don't know where I have to go, but I want to go wherever my country needs me. Because they just attacked us. They attacked who we are. They attacked our families. And so I went off and attended West Point, proud grad, also wearing the swag because tomorrow is the Army-Navy game. So got to get that in there, a little bit of go Army, beat Navy. But so with that, you know, went off to West Point and graduated at the top of my class, and then would go off to serve 16 years in the active duty Army as the majority of it as a special operations officer. And so with that, yeah, went overseas. You know, the stuff I can talk about is I served 6 tours overseas in combat zones like Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen. And then my last 2 years in uniform, I was at the White House as the Director for Counterterrorism on the National Security Council staff, and then was asked to stay on to help lead a Homeland Security mission at the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, helping secure our nation's critical infrastructure. You know, everything from our electric grid to the water we drink. And I have to tell you, after all of that, after everything that I have seen, I really never thought that I would ever feel like the greatest threat to this country I love more than anything and our future would be coming from inside, within our own borders. And I think that is so much of what fuels me in this fight. It's the same thing that led me to raise my hand and swear an oath over 20 years ago. It is this love for country and the sense of responsibility to fight for every American and what is right.
Yeah, absolutely. I love your journey. I mean, just absolute badass. There's no question about it. But I also specifically love your dedication to your roots and the Hudson Valley. And you're not from a rich political family. You are someone who grew up in the Hudson Valley, fourth generation. And actually, you also mentioned that you're the first to graduate college in your family. So can you just talk a little bit more about how your upbringing has influenced your perspective on service and leadership? Now, I know watching 9/11 as a junior in high school, and feeling that call, but kind of what about before that?
Absolutely. Growing up, I was raised by a single mom. She raised me and my two sisters, and I just think about back then, we're working for the US Postal Service, right, on a postal worker's salary here in the Hudson Valley, raising three girls. She could buy a home in the 90s. And I think about where we are at today as a country and how my two sisters can't even afford to move back to raise their families in the communities that raised us because of how expensive it is and the lack of opportunity here. And so going back to, roots matter. And this struggle with affordability, it's one I know because my family's lived it. We still live it. I remember literally as a kid trying to find 50 cents in the couch cushions or the cars to make sure my mom could buy a coffee on her way to work at the deli, before she got to the post office. And I think it's remembering that, look, America is this country where there is so much opportunity. And while not perfect, it is this beautiful place where we try every day to make it better. And so for me, I got to live the American dream. Neither of my parents graduated from college. I got to go off and earn degrees from West Point, from Harvard, from MIT to serve my country, right? To serve at the White House, to serve as a senior executive in public service. And that's because we live in America and these things are there. But what I am so passionate about right now is that this American dream that I got to live feels out of reach for way too many American families. It just, for so many, it feels like America doesn't work for working Americans. And we have to fundamentally fix that, because if that's happening, then America is failing. And we can't let that be the path we continue on. And so super proud of my working class roots because it has shaped who I am. And most importantly, it reminds me every day of who I am fighting for.
Yeah, I'm really glad you shared or talked about how your mom works for USPS and raised three daughters by herself as a single mom on that income. Like that is unimaginable these days. And that was only the 90s. And the fact that we got so far away from that, I just think that's such a great example for folks to hear, like, hey, this was possible not too long ago,
I'm like, Sarah, I'm not that old,
No, you're not.
You're not.
It feels like it's so far away, but I'm like, it was our life.
Right.
Yeah. So you are running for Congress, as we've said. You are running in New York's 17th congressional district, which is widely considered a top pickup seat for Democrats. So you have a big race you're running here. I think I know what you're going to say based on your previous kind of answers here, but what do you think is the most urgent issue in your district specifically, and how do you plan to address it if elected?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I think we need to recognize that we can love this country like I do and believe in it, and recognize that right now it is just too damn hard for families. And that even if you're in middle class America, you don't feel like you're thriving, you feel like you're barely surviving. And so honestly, my focus, what fires me up is we have got to make America work for working American families again. And I think as a party, we have to recognize where we have not been delivering for the American people in the way they need us to. And the way we get back on winning is by delivering, right? And showing the American people that we hear them and that we are going to focus on doing better. And that is our North Star. That is our azimuth. And so that is really actually what I am so passionate about and so focused on. And that's not a single issue, right? When we talk about how do you really create economic opportunity again, and address affordability, it's a range of things that we must address all of. It's not one issue or the other. We have been failing across the board to take on these critical issues. And in the aggregate, the effects on people have been staggering. And so it's everything from addressing affordability. And some of this is this administration, at a time where we're facing an affordability crisis, has deliberately pursued policies that have done nothing but make that even worse. We're talking about reckless tariffs that at a time where you see people, especially in fixed incomes, literally making trade-offs in my district between paying for groceries or their prescriptions, implementing tariffs that are literally driving up prescription costs and grocery costs at a time where we are facing a housing availability and affordability crisis, where we need to be building more homes that working Americans can afford, right? That middle-class Americans can afford. We do things like implement tariffs on Canada that drive up the rate of construction material. This summer, the Canadian Chamber of Commerce came out and talked about how the average cost of building a home in America in 2027 is going to go up $14,000 because of the impact of tariffs. Like, this is just stupid. Yeah. And so we have to first stop the stupid. And then actually do things.
Stop the stupid. Oh my God, I love it. Seriously, I know your campaign is already off and running, but maybe you should add that as a nice little logo or tagline. Stop the stupid. Yes, we totally agree. Another big part of your campaign, though, is being a part of a group called the Hell Cats, which honestly, we talked about it before we started recording, but it gets us going. It gave me chills watching that first video where you introduced all of yourselves. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. So what does this movement represent for women in politics, and why do you think now is a moment for veterans like you and the other Hell Cats to step into elected office?
I am so proud of my really dear friends and sisters in arms that we're taking this fight on together with. So Joanna Mendoza out in Arizona 6, we've got Rebecca Bennett in New Jersey 7, and Maura Sullivan up in New Hampshire 1. And these are fights that have implications not just for our jurisdictions, right? Like mine in New York 17. It's not just about our communities. It's about flipping seats from red to blue. It's about taking back the majority and putting checks on this administration that could give a shit about the American people. Let's be real. And so what I love is, look, we became a group of friends who were on these journeys together, right? While we're in different places, the reason for getting into this fight is the same. It is a love of country. It is the fact that we swore oaths to the Constitution to fight for this nation, to defend this nation. And what we are seeing happening is not the America we fought for. And we're at a time where, look, our nation, what crushes me, what made me feel the unwavering desire to get in this arena is the heartbreak of watching how torn apart our society is, right? To see how divided America is. And when I was growing up, well, of course there were political parties. It was not like it was today. You were a community first. We were Americans first. And I firmly believe we have to get back to that. And I think that's what all of us represent. We have all put on the uniform, gone overseas, fought for this nation in combat zones because we love this country. And wearing the uniform, taking this on, you don't do it for a political party. You do it for the American people. You never cared how someone registered to vote or even if they voted. It was about the fact that you're out there fighting for this country and something bigger than all of us. And I think that message of we're doing this for all of us and that we're willing to do the hard when our country needs us to. I think that's the other thing. People are just sick of politicians. We're not politicians. We're public servants. We're leaders. We're fighters. And we're no bullshit. We're here because we have watched how individuals, politicians on both sides, got our country into this mess. And we know they're not going to get us out of it. So that's where we say, thank you so much. Please step aside. Adults are coming in and we're going to deliver.
Yeah. I love on that point you just hit on, because I think first, yes, everyone is sick of politicians. I mean, on both sides, it doesn't matter what party you're part of. It doesn't matter. People want real change and they don't think career politicians are going to do it because they have proven to us time and time again they are not doing it. So I think I love that point you made. But I love more the public service piece. You know, I will just say we have some public servants, doctors and stuff like that running here in Ohio as well. And like that is the main message I feel like I've heard from them, as well as you guys, all the veterans running. It's like we've always served our country. And that's what we're going to continue to do. Like this is how our country needs us now. And this is the, you know, the way we're going to serve them and the way we're going to step up. So I love that answer so much. So speaking of veterans, like you just talked about, all the Hellcats are veterans, female veterans specifically. And so what like unique skills or perspectives do you guys think that you would bring to Washington as female veterans that is maybe missing today?
So first, I'll just tell you, as someone who has gone all over this world and taken on really hard problems where excuses didn't matter, you had to get results. I think we have lost focus on the fact that government literally exists to tackle the hard for its people. And we see way too many people in elected office who are willing to accept that it's just too hard and walk away, or make excuses for why they can't move the ball downfield. And that is not okay in the places we come from. No matter how hard, you have to find a way. No matter what the challenge, whoever you need to work with to get there, you find the way. And that is what this nation needs right now, is people who are going to find a way to deliver results for people at a time where they are suffering and they need help and they need to see a light at the end of the tunnel. And I'll tell you, when we look at where does the Democratic Party need to do better, I think some of it is being able to talk to people, right? All people. In the military, in the U.S. Army, women were definitely the minority. There was very often I was the only woman in an organization. It didn't matter. You delivered. You found ways to work with everyone. And I think it's that kind of approach of you've got to be able to go out there and talk to people, to listen to people and to connect with them and find ways to get things done together. And I think it is that mentality of, we've been in some really hard situations and we have still found ways to get it done. And that is what this country needs.
I totally agree. Could
not agree more. I think exactly how you worded it, as we have folks in elected office that are just like, well, too hard. That's it. Like, no, that is not an acceptable answer for our politicians leading this country. Government is here to support and protect us. And sorry, this is just too hard is not a great answer. So I know just from talking to you, that's going to be a huge point for your campaign. And I know people will pick up on that so easily, that you are here to get shit done. Get shit done.
They chose to get into this, right? Like, you chose to serve in this way. So do your job.
Yeah. Do your job. Yes, exactly. So how would, with all of your experience, especially with national security, how would you kind of plan to balance that experience with more local issues in NY17?
So I think it's so important to recognize how much just even the security component of American life has evolved and changed, right? Where, 40 years ago, if we were talking about American national security, you would be talking about, well, we have two oceans protecting us, right? And what do our land forces look like? What do our naval forces look like? What does our air force look like? And when you look at the threat environment today, it is just so fundamentally different, where because of technology and how interconnected our lives are, oceans aren't protecting us from things like cyber threats, right? From things like supply chain risk. We realized a few years ago that 80% of the cranes operating at American ports were Chinese made and running on Chinese operating technology that was actively connecting back to China. Could you imagine if they wanted to just shut down our port operations, how easy we made it? This is where, even on the national security perspective, I think right now what we're seeing is how national security and economic security are so interwoven. And how, look, part of where America has been so successful is because of our economic success, because we've been the world's strongest economy, because we've led the world in global innovation. And those two things are so interrelated, and we have to recognize that. And so when I look at how things have changed, we have got to recognize the world we are living in today and not 30 years ago. And we need to see where the world's going for the next 30 years. An example I use is, when I was growing up, climate change was like this academic and moral debate. Now, it's a national security crisis. Americans are dying. American communities are getting displaced. American businesses are getting devastated because of the effects of climate change and the extreme weather that comes from it. And so we have to be addressing it in that way. Look, we are facing right now the beginning of an energy crisis because our consumption is going to be continuing to grow at such a fast and rapid rate to drive the technology-driven lives that we are leading, right? And so with that, At the same time, here in New York 17, we have families who already cannot afford to pay their energy bills. And now I have utility providers across this district in both gas and electric seeking double-digit rate increases on top of all the other affordability issues that we are struggling with, right? And I'll tell you the biggest concern I have. For the first time in modern American history, the economic prospects of young Americans are worse than their parents or grandparents. That is failure. This summer, we saw how the recent college graduate unemployment rate exceeded the national average. And forecasts for next year are worse, not better. We have to recognize that the economy is changing, that demands for the workforce are shifting, and how do we set conditions so that the workforce of today and tomorrow can be successful? You know, when I was growing up, going back to my family roots, my path to the American middle class was going to a 4-year college. Today, there are so many other ways to get there that I think we have to help American families recognize and pursue. You know, when you look at the opportunities that are going to be there where people can provide and do so well, it's no longer just college. It's the trade skills, right? It's pursuing careers in healthcare and education. Like, these are fields that we're going to increasingly need. And for many, you don't need to go into lifelong student debt to get there. I mean, it's nuts. The higher education tuition rates have gone up 41% in 20 years.
It's ridiculous.
Why?
Yeah.
It's absurd. So we have got to recognize that, look, we have got to do better to provide the American people here in my community, with pathways to success. And that's investing in things like vocational trades and technical programming. I want us to bring in the next wave of what that is. Here in New York, we have something called BOCES programming, where you in your junior and senior year of high school, and even there, we offer adult classes, can go and pursue these technical trades and even get certifications before you graduate from high school, right? They're awesome. My sister went through the program. She left as a certified nursing assistant at the end. And you come out of high school literally able to join the workforce and continue your career. And they're awesome. I would love us to not only increase the actual capacity of our current courses, but bring in the next generation. I would love for us to have things like solar panel repair technician programming, advanced manufacturing, robotic repair technicians, things where you don't need a 4-year degree to still crush it. You know, these are the things that I'm so focused on about bringing to New York 17 and being an example for the rest of the country.
Yeah, I think that's an incredible way to think about it. I think education is something sometimes easily overlooked to how much it can impact the rest of everything else. And then you tied it all together with just how that all ties into national security as well. So thank you for walking us through that. Speaking of national security, I want to talk about the military under this administration, if that's okay with you.
She's like, okay.
You're gonna see my neck veins. They're gonna get going.
Yeah, not to trigger you here or anything, but
no, it's fine.
It's great.
We know that there's been a lot of concern, obviously, about the military being politicized, basically, including remarks, orders from the administration, including Secretary Pete Hegseth. So can you just tell us, as a veteran yourself, what kind of is the biggest concern you're seeing, and just what kind of, I'll say, how dangerous is this for our democracy?
So heartbroken every day when I see the failures in civilian leadership at the highest levels of this administration, from the Secretary of Defense to the Vice President to the President himself. And I know that America's sons and daughters and kids that are out there wearing the uniform, they deserve so much better. You know, they swore an oath to defend this country and to take care of the American people, to do what is right. And they deserve leaders who understand and respect that. And I think that has been the hardest part of this to watch, is just these soldiers deserve better, you know? And we have seen that with the recklessness of this administration from the very beginning, when we saw egregious violations of security policies that, by the way, threaten the lives of service members overseas, not those individuals safely at home here in the United States, with incidents like Signalgate, where you literally had them live texting on their personal phones about an ongoing sensitive military operation. These are things that are completely unacceptable and just show they don't actually care about the men and women in uniform. And yeah, what really pisses me off is how you've seen this administration use those men and women, those soldiers, as political pawns. And it's like, look, they deserve better. The military is something that serves country, not a party. It transcends politics. And that is where it needs to stay. And so when I look at decisions like pulling the National Guard from different states to send them to other states to essentially pick up trash, right? To do litter patrols. It is such an egregious waste of their time. And let's not forget, they're pulling these people from their families, right? The National Guard, they're service members who are volunteering to serve their communities and their country at times of crisis. And we are wasting their time and forcing unnecessary suffering on their families by sending them to other places to do utter BS and just, again, be political pawns. And that is wrong. And unfortunately, we saw the loss of one of those service members a few weeks ago in a terror attack in DC. And so when we look at this country and what it is going to take to make America safe, not just today, but tomorrow and for the next 10, 20 years, you need serious professionals who are going to lean in and tackle the real issues, not manufacture smoke screens and talk about the glory days of the 90s like Hegseth did. It's like, man, our best days need to be ahead of us. And we need leaders who are going to focus on that. And unfortunately, what we have seen from this administration is a failure in being able to do that. And that cannot be what continues. I mean, this is where if Pete Hegseth wants to do the right thing, step down, resign, let someone else who's going to take this job seriously and is actually qualified to do it, lead our military. Because our country deserves that.
Absolutely. You know what I would like to see? I want you and Pete Hegseth in a pull-up competition.
I don't know if I could keep a straight face. I don't know. His hair might get messed up,
Yeah, yes, his hair, my goodness. And he wouldn't have a drink in his hand, so that would be another problem. And yeah.
The struggle could be very real.
Oh, yes.
But yes, I mean, like, just snaps. I can't clap on the mic.
The editor
Kevin won't be impressed by that. But yes, like, to everything you just said, I'm not a veteran, but like, it is infuriating watching, to your point, the people be taking away from their families, like, to do mindless things, people being put at risk, like the service members we lost, the one we lost and the one that was injured. Like, it's just so infuriating to watch him like play. It's almost like he has like G.I. Joe toys and he's playing with it, and he's just putting people on a map wherever he wants. It's wild and infuriating and scary and sad. Like, I just, you summed it up much better than I just did, but I just was like over here nodding at everything you said because it's so frustrating.
And then Ashley, you see things like our national security strategy that they just released, where it fundamentally shows you that this administration is not actually focused on our national security priorities to keep America safe in the years to come. Withdrawing from our allies in Europe as we see Russian aggression violate the democratic sovereignty of another country. We saw them do incursions into sovereign NATO airspace, right? And European countries. I mean, this is what kills me, is we're at a time where you have an Iranian regime that can't even get water to its second largest city, but is doubling down on building a nuclear weapon. Iran, by the way, the largest purveyor of lethal aid to terror groups in this world, cannot get a nuclear weapon. Cannot. But that is something they're still actively pursuing. No mission accomplished there in terms of our ability to defeat or dismantle or disrupt that. You see Iran also enabling things like the Russian war on Ukraine by sending them one-way suicide drones that you watch Russia launch into civilian cities and that critical infrastructure. And then coming out of the UN General Assembly this fall, you heard North Korea, where, again, they can't even feed their own people, talking about expanding their nuclear arsenal. We have very real threats. I already talked earlier about the supply chain risks and the vulnerability of our nation's critical infrastructure, which was not built with safety or security in mind. And we have to fix that. But these aren't the things that these individuals are focused on. Instead, it's nonsense, and it's entertainment and media fanfare instead of the substance that America deserves.
Absolutely. Can you quickly describe like what your ideal political leader would look like when it comes to guiding the military and making sure they remain nonpartisan and kind of the opposite of everything that Pete Hegseth is? What would your ideal candidate in that type of role, how would they lead?
Someone who absolutely respects and appreciates the responsibility that is on their shoulders for the lives of not just American service members, but the lives of the American people, right? Your job is to enable the safety and security of Americans and ensure we have the military that can guarantee that by winning our nation's wars and avoiding them at all costs. And so it goes back to, I think, first and foremost, there is a values component to this that Pete Hegseth does not have, that this administration does not value, and they have demonstrated that. We have seen a weaponization of the executive branch under the Trump administration that is unprecedented for our lifetimes and maybe in this country's lifetime. We have seen him literally issue executive orders targeting his political opposition. In America, this is not who we are as a nation. The shit we are seeing is un-American. And that's why I don't care how you register to vote or how you think you lean politically. You're an American. This shit is wrong, right? This is not who we are. And I think that is the most important part.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's hard to, well, I'll say it this way. Sometimes it's easy to believe that like 50% of the country wanted this, or that thinks that this is okay. And I always go back to like, we know that's not true. Like that's not the numbers that voted. And then we also know we can look at like the countless number of people who have regretted their vote or like have, now decided that, hey, no, this isn't right as well. So that I always hold on to that. It's like the fact that this isn't American. I think the majority of people truly agree with that and believe that. And so that's something I try to hold on to on the hard days.
I mean, I think border security and immigration is a perfect example. Look, border security is a legitimate part of national security. You can be an advocate of border security and pro-immigration. I am. We fail to invest in our border security to make it adequate to make sure that those with nefarious or criminal intentions could not exploit it. What I mean by that is, look, we have seen how criminal groups like drug traffickers and human traffickers, as well as terrorist organizations, have tried to exploit our borders because they are not as secure as they need to be. We have to fix that. And you can say, I am for border security, which is a key part of sovereignty, right? And I'm also pro-immigration. And I want to protect people who want to come into this country the right way, right? And so that is where what people who are pro-border security didn't sign up for is watching American ICE agents wearing masks, rolling around American streets, putting hoods over the heads of people and putting them in unmarked cars. I have been to countries where that happens. They're called war zones and dictatorships, not America and not democracies. And the fact that that is happening on American streets is disgusting.
It is.
And the people they are targeting, don't try to come at me, like trying to say, Kristi Noem, that they're criminals. In our own district, we saw a mother with a 4-year-old child pulled off of her front porch.
That was your district? I saw that video.
Yes.
Oh, that's so sad.
Don't try to pretend like this is about the drug cartels. We see the percentages. The overwhelming majority of people that are getting wrapped up in this egregious effort have no criminal history at all. And so this is where the truth matters and where who we are as a country matters. Look, I want to disrupt drug cartels too. This isn't that. And we need to stop lying.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we're going to pivot a little bit as we start to wrap up here. So throughout your career, you've already mentioned this earlier, like you've basically just had to get shit done. Like you've been called in to fix things that are broken. There's no, throw your hands up, I don't know what to do. It's just get through it, figure it out, and fix it. So if you're elected to Congress, what would your first priority to tackle some of the systemic issues we have in Washington be? Like, how would you bring that get shit done attitude and what would you try to go after first?
I mean, right now it is just too hard for American families. And so we have to make that better. Full stop. And there's no single issue where if we address just that, everything gets better. And I think we have to be very clear-eyed about this. There is no silver bullet. What this is about is doing a lot of the hard work on the issues that are underpinning the struggle. Right? We have got to tackle our nation's failing critical infrastructure. We have got to ensure we are investing in economic opportunities for the current workforce and the future, especially as we see workforce transitions coming with AI productivity tools, where look, we are going to see a significant shift to the white collar workforce. And how are we preparing that workforce to still be successful, right? And instead of trying to lean in and figure out what that is, you see this administration trying to prevent, even at the state level, any type of guardrails in place for AI workforce displacement, which is just wrong and selfish and shows you yet again, they don't care about the people. They care about the tech bros funding their efforts like the ballroom, right? That's where the real loyalty is. And so when we talk about going forward, it is a lot of the stuff we talked about, right? We need to make sure people have access to jobs where they can provide for themselves and their families. We've got to make sure we're providing the right educational opportunities to give people that future. We've got to be addressing costs that are just way too much on people. Whether it's utility costs, grocery costs, prescription costs, the shit is out of control and we've got to get better. It starts with stop doing stupid shit, but it also means tackling these problems and not saying they're just too hard, there's nothing we can do.
Absolutely. So along with stop doing stupid shit, what else do you want voters in New York 17 and just across New York to know about your approach to leadership and public service?
That they just deserve better. I think going back to what you ladies were saying earlier, I've met with a lot of folks, including this district. So New York 17 is one of 3 districts in the entire country that split the ticket, going for Kamala Harris and a Republican member of Congress. I will say, though, Kamala Harris won this district by less than 1 point. So a lot of folks here also voted for Trump. And I've talked with so many. And what I've taken away from this is a lot of them don't love Trump. They just feel like the system is broken. And they are so desperate to find someone who says they're going to do something different. In Trump's lies, they found hope. And I think that is the takeaway we have to have, is we have to recognize it is just too damn hard for people right now, here in the Hudson Valley and across America. And we must deliver on making that better. And so that is what this is about. It is about being the workhorse that's going to lean in and focus on actually solving the hard problems. And you deserve someone who will do that. And what we have seen from Mike Lawler is the only person Mike Lawler serves is Mike Lawler. He can sit there and throw up smoke screens and take the photo op and spew lies, but he can't outrun his record. And that record is one of a failure to deliver. Because for American families, for Hudson Valley families, since Mike Lawler has been elected, it is only harder to put food on the table, a roof over their family's head, keep the lights on, or give their kids a better future. And they deserve better. And so when it comes to this administration, why does New York 17 matter to not just me and my family in these communities, but the country? We're going to take back the House. The path to the majority runs through New York 17. So we've got to flip this, not just for New York, but for this country. We need to have institutional checks on this administration. We need better. And so this is a fight not just for New York, but truly for this country that we love and for the future that we deserve.
I love that. I think we've said this a lot recently, is like, we just want fighters. We just want people who are going to fight, like get in the game and fight for us as Americans, for us as people, for, the constituents in whoever it is district. Like, that's all we want. We want someone to fight. And I will say, Kate, if there's anyone who's going to go in there fighting, I feel like you're the girl. Like,
I think we just met her.
Yeah. Like, I have no doubts. Like, if I had to make my top 10 fighter list right now, like, you're in the top probably 3. Like, I don't even, maybe 1. Honestly, I just don't want to give you the spot and then someone else be mad at me. But like, I'm not joking. Like, I like your energy, like just the no bullshit approach you have, everything about you, like your whole past, your whole experience, you are a fighter. And like, that's exactly what we need in Congress right now. So thank you so much for joining us. We always end with one question. And that was very I really got fired up from that. So I kind of don't even want to end with this question for you, but I feel like we got to do it. What is giving you hope right now?
So when you look at America, for 250 years, we have gone through really hard times. We have had really dark chapters, and we have emerged better and stronger because in those extraordinarily hard and dark times, ordinary people have met the moment, rose up, and said, I will live with courage. And that is what America is about. It is about people who recognize that this future and what we become as a nation is up to us. We are the cavalry. No one else is coming to save us. It is us. It is our watch. And who we become as America, the future that the next generation inherits from us, that is on us to deliver. And so what gives me hope is I love this country. And while not perfect, every generation we have pushed to be better and better. And I do not believe that we are going to let that change on our watch. That despite it being hard, despite it being dark, we are going to meet this moment and America will be better in the end. Not because it was easy, but because out of love for this country and one another, we are going to meet this moment too. But it will not happen without all of us doing our part. So yeah, let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go. We could not agree more. Kate, you give us hope, and we are so excited that you're running for Congress, and we so wish we lived in New York 17, but we are absolutely rooting for you, screaming from the rooftops in Ohio, and if you're ever in our state, please reach out. We would love to meet in person, and we are, like I said, we're going to be watching your race very closely, and we are behind you, my friend.
Yes.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you so
I
much
mean,
for
this fight is ours.
Yep.
Yes.
That is ours.
Yes.
Love it. Thanks so much for joining us, Kate.
Thank
And
you.
we will be supporting all we can.
Awesome. Check us out.
Absolutely. We will have your website linked in the show notes. We'll have the Hell Cat video there. Folks can go there and find all the information about you. And of course, if they're willing, we would love them to donate to your campaign.
Yes.
That is honestly the fuel for us to fight. You know, it's one of those things where you cannot win an election with just money, but you can't win an election without it, right? And so it is the means to reach people, and it is the means for us to keep this fight going. So it absolutely matters, no matter how much. So yeah, thank you. And I promise we're going to fight and make y'all proud.
I love it. Thanks so much, Kate.
Love it.
All right,
Thank you.
ladies. Well, this was a blast.